Okay, everyone, welcome back. Hope that you had an opportunity to take care of yourself, and we are definitely turning the corner, coming around the corner. I know the day was long and maybe went by quickly, but we still have the rest of Janet's presentation to look forward to, and then we will follow that up with an opportunity to ask our afternoon panelists some final questions, and we will finish out the day. So Janet, please continue.
Thank you, Sharon. So if you weren't convinced from that activity and your own personal participation, let me show you some research. I want to mention this study that was done in 2012 by James Catterall. And the basis of it really says that teens and young adults of low socioeconomic status, and they're talking about families that are in the bottom quartile economically, who have a history. So these students who have a history of in-depth or arts-rich involvement show better academic outcomes than those with less arts involvement. And that comes in all kinds of ways. And I've listed some here. Let me just read off some other things that the study talks about. Higher test scores, more likely to complete a calculus course, higher overall GPAs, more likely to aspire to college, enrolled in competitive colleges at higher rates, 3 times more likely to earn a bachelor's degree, participate in student government, student service clubs at 4 times the rate of those without arts-rich experiences, more likely to have volunteered recently, and more likely to graduate from high school compared to low SES with few or no arts credits. Those students without arts are 5 times more likely not to graduate from high school. So this is not about students experiencing homelessness per se, but it is about low SES and arts-rich experiences. So the conclusion from this study, which is a longitudinal study of 4 different studies from 1988 to 2008, with a sample size of 71,000 students. So it's a big study. The bottom line is that there are more positive outcomes in a variety of areas for students with high, in-depth, arts-rich experiences. And here's the other thing. We talk about gaps in education so often, and these students with high arts experiences virtually eliminated achievement gaps when compared with the general population. So if you want to learn more, the link to the study is there. And then we'll go to the last slide. I wanted to mention something that's being done locally. This is a project in Seattle. It's being organized by Hannah Curtis, who's a doctoral student at the University of Washington, a 2-year study, 2018 to 2020. So they're just wrapping up now. It was a collaboration with the City of Seattle's Innovation and Performance Team and Human Services Department and the Office of Arts and Culture, along with the Seattle Public Schools, 2 schools in particular with high percentage of unstably housed students and youth of color. And the third partner, or the third leg to this, was local arts organizations and teaching artists. These creative youth development programs should provide safe spaces, build on student strengths, help develop pro-social skills with peers and adult mentors, be centered on the wants and needs of youth, set high expectations, and have high quality instruction, are holistic and take into account youth's other psychosocial needs. So in this project, they combined the creative youth development theories or ideas that I just had mentioned. They combined that with high quality arts instruction, along with culturally responsive strategies. In other words, they really focused on BIPOC or Black, Indigenous people of color students, and they also had artist mentors that were BIPOC. It was place-based, culturally relevant, responsive pedagogical strategies. It engaged social, emotional, relational, and cognitive learning. So let me just get to the bottom line here. What were the results of this? And it's still developing. So the link that you have there is to the report they issued last year, and they're in the process of issuing a report for this year, the final report. they let me see it, but I couldn't share it with you directly. So I'm pulling this information from their most current report. They said, as a result of participating in this, students developed a toolkit, what they called a toolkit of skills, interpersonal skills, including confidence and self-esteem. Administrators reported that many students became more expressive, more open and communicative. It built 21st century learning skills, including communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, a growth mindset, and perseverance. And it exposed students to and practiced concepts of creative workforce development and creative entrepreneurship. One of the projects was learning how to do print art. And students, one student got so good at it that he is now creating his own t-shirts and selling them. So he started his own business. I want to be mindful of time. So again, click on this link to find more about this study, and a new study will be out soon. I would just leave with, I'll put my contact information in the chat. If you're interested in trying to figure out how to start some sort of project engaging with the arts, I'd be more than happy to talk with you and work with you about that. So thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Janet, for joining our conversation. It was rich. And, you know, oftentimes I think the arts can be undervalued in terms of its healing principles and potential. Melinda also posted information about some OSPI data that indicates or illustrates that students who experience homelessness, who take 3 or more art courses, tend to graduate at rates more aligned with students who are housed. So there is direct data that indicates just this incredible significance of arts in the lives of young people. So thank you so much for your contribution to this, to our learning today. We appreciate it. And also to all of you who participated and shared your information and expertise with all of us today. And with that, we are going to move into, we have about 15 minutes to offer up questions and feedback in regards to the afternoon panel presentations that we received today. And just as a reminder, on your screens, you'll see on the slide what our afternoon topics were and the resources that were shared. Foster care program and our student safety program, building changes, coordinated care, and then of course the arts. And so this is the time for you all as participants to offer up thoughts, questions, feedback, and I will ask again my esteemed colleagues, Matt and Melinda and Keith in particular, if you are available to just peruse the chat box along with me. And Aubrey, to see if anyone is raising hands. You still have the potential or the capacity to raise your hands using the tool, or to offer thoughts and comments in the chat box. So I am also going to, I saw that there were questions asked and also addressed by some of my colleagues, but if there are any questions that came up, and we do actually have a raised hand, Amy, in the, one of our participants is raising their hand. So Aubrey, if you wouldn't mind unmuting her mic so she can ask her question.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, yes. Hi, Amy.
Okay. Hi, I'm good. Thank you. It's been a lot of information today, but always good. One question that I have that I was wondering if somebody might be able to answer is when you've got I had a situation where it was a 6-year-old unaccompanied homeless youth staying with caregivers who were concerned about the safety of the child going back to their biological parent. The school wanted to do an IEP assessment, and they wanted to contact the biological parent for permission to do the IEP, but the caregivers were very concerned about the child's safety if that biological parent was contacted. And I wondered if you could just give a little guidance on what the law says about that unaccompanied homeless youth. I know they're supposed to be immediately served or expedited processes for their IEP. But in this case, the school psychologist had a really hard time saying, I need to contact the biological parent. And then the caregivers being adamant that that was not a good idea for the child's safety concerns.
So I am wondering if any of our panelists would like to address that question.
Hello. I can't specifically answer it without, getting really deep into the details. It's really more of a special education question because there is a definition under IDEA for a parent, which is far broader than what we're dealing with McKinney Vento Act or with ESEA. So it's an IDEA question. Probably the answer is going to be something along the lines of that caregiver would be considered a parent under IDEA, but you'd want to talk to your SPED colleagues about that. Because like I said, the parent definition under IDEA is far, far wider. And it would be a role for the IEP team once they figure out who that parent would be considered to be.
Okay, and I can tell you the guidance that I offered was similar, and I did have some OSPI response from our friend Jess Lewis from a few years ago, and that information was very similar. So I kind of took it from a similar situation, but in this case, the child was 6 years old, and in the other incident, the child was 17. So it seemed to be a little bit, our friends in the special ed department were not very happy about it. The temporary guardians we did authorize as a parent in lieu of the biological parent being available. However, they wanted to continue to do their due diligence to notify the parent in 3 different methods of phone call, an email, and mailing the intent to do the assessment home to the official guardian who the child had been removed from the home, but CPS hadn't yet been involved. So CPS has been involved now. The child has gone back to the biological parent after reporting the caregivers as kidnappers, and we don't know if the child's safe. So that's where it is right now.
Yeah, and there is a process that obviously wasn't used in this case, but if there's an allegation of abuse, there's also, well, the parent knew where the child was, so that wouldn't apply. But there is a process if the parent doesn't know where the child is, and there is an allegation of abuse for keeping that information from the parent. Melinda knows a little bit more about that. She's talked to me about that before. It is very difficult to do, though.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you for the question and also for your response, Keith. Any other questions? I am perusing the chat box as we speak. I'm wondering if either Mike from the student safety perspective or Lindsay from coordinated care have any additional thoughts in terms of resources. And this would be, my thinking is more so in support of the student if they are wanting to reach out for support regarding their safety, their own concerns about their own safety. Okay, so let's see. Other questions or comments? And again, similar to the morning session, if there are any presenters who would like to elaborate or offer additional information, that they did not talk about or expand on as much as maybe they wanted to, due to just trying to honor the time listed on the agenda. We still do have about a little more than 5 minutes, about 7 minutes to share this space and offer any comments, feedback, ask questions. Feel free at this time.
Sharon, can I just pop in with a comment?
Absolutely, Janet, thank you.
So the artwork that was on the slides that during my presentation are all from what's called the Superintendent's High School Art Show. And these are entries from 2020. The show is curated first at each ESD, and then the artwork that they select as finalists comes forward to waOSPI. And then we have a team of artists and educators, professionals who select, designate which pieces are statewide winners. And I would open that, it's a very low threshold way of getting involved. It basically requires a teacher to submit, and does not have to be an art teacher, to submit a piece of artwork to your local ESD. And they will have information about when their art shows are. Probably, my guess is that their deadline's around January, February-ish. So I'd encourage, that's, an easy thing to extend out.
Thank you so much, Janet. Yes, lots of, I guess I will take a little bit of space in this moment. I know everybody's probably exhausted, and your brain is filled with lots of information that you received today. And I just want to honor the fact that you all did participate, that you did come. This really, to me, felt like a community of educators coming together again at this very unprecedented time in history, really, and a new season in so many ways. So I personally feel really honored and grateful to be in this space with you all of the information that we heard, the passion behind the work, and all of us collectively and individually recognizing the importance and the urgency to really support, again, our most vulnerable population of students and within the communities within our state. And I just want to say, even though we're not really at the slide where I'm thanking everyone, but I just want to say that I am sitting with a lot of humility in this moment, having seen the activity in the chat, the activity occurring in the chat box in terms of discussion between you all. And we really hope that this has been a very valuable use of your time today. And we look forward to lots of a lot more training coming and a lot more virtual experiences where we can come together. So again, we're not on those slides yet. We're still sitting with a few more minutes. If anyone has comments about or questions in regards to any of the information that we heard this afternoon. And if not, maybe what we'll do is go ahead and advance to the next slides. Getting lots of feedback in the chat rooms that people felt like they did have very positive experience today, and we really appreciate that. That was definitely our goal and our aim today. So why don't we go ahead and advance to the last remaining slides for the day, and we'll wrap things up. So just reflecting once again on our learning objectives for the day. Wanted to make sure that you experienced hearing and taking in information regarding your role as liaisons, McKinney Vento liaisons, and or building points of contact, serving students who are experiencing homelessness. That you also will have, feel that you experienced receiving information about effective service delivery during these unprecedented times that we find ourselves living in, and also that you will have experienced a nurturing, collaborative, community building opportunity of resources and relationships and time to spend with each other as peers, moving through this work together. So those were our key objectives, learning objectives for the training today, and we hope that you did experience them fully. And we know that, again, in these challenging times, we know that you are clinging to the resources that are available to you. So please know that everybody who presented today and everybody that will be presenting in December, which, by the way, is that training will be identical to today, with the exception of our afternoon panelists will be a different set of resources. And so what we will do is make sure that you have all of the resources from both today's training and the December training available to you after that training occurs. You'll have access to the slide decks. You will have access to, we are looking to put together a sort of a FAQ based on some of the questions that came up. If we find that there is that there are enough similar questions that come up. And then, of course, access to the recorded version of these trainings. And so we look forward to being able to share them with you. And next slide, please. So this is a page of resources anyway, that if you would like to take, we'll just pause here for a moment. So for those of you who hung on to the very end of the training today and the very last slides, feel free to take screenshots of this information with links to some of the resources that we discussed today. So we'll just sort of pause here for a moment to give you an opportunity to do that. And the next slide also contains some links and resources as well, specific to McKinney Vento. And again, some of the information that we referenced today, and at the very first link there is actually an FAQ regarding education and rights of children and youth experiencing homelessness. So that is probably the same FAQ that you would receive if we put one together later. But we, again, will review the questions that we may have missed in the chat box and offer up some responses to those if they're there. All right, and then I believe we have one more slide. Finally, most importantly, thank you. Thank you to all of our presenters, our partners. Thank you for your engagement. For those of you who participated as attendees, and we are just really excited that we had the opportunity to share the fall training, AKA autumn training event for McKinney Vento with you. I'm so grateful that you were able to attend. Hope again that you experienced and are walking away with some useful resources and having a renewed sense of community, having had an opportunity to connect with us and to connect with each other. And with that, I think maybe there's one more slide. And that is probably our landing slide. So this is just please connect with us through social media. There's information about the social media platforms there on this final slide. It looks like everyone is thanking us, and we thank you sincerely. Looks like you will have about 13 minutes of gift of time. I am gonna hang out here in this room in case anybody does want to offer up some final comments or questions. Otherwise, that's the end of our presentation and our training. So be well and take care, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.